I'm in Shenandoah National Park, and this is the Loft Mountain Wayside. This is down in the Southern District, mile marker 80. There's my little red car. And this is a fairly large parking area here at the wayside. Across the other side of Skyline Drive, heading up that way about a mile, is Loft Mountain Campground up there. I'm up here today looking for an old abandoned road that used to come up. That's the west side of the mountain. And I was looking at a 1937 map, and there used to be a road that came up here before Skyline Drive, I guess, came up from behind that building and shot across here and headed north that way just a short distance, and then down the east side of the mountain. So I'm going to go down this way and explore the east side of the mountain, see if I can find this old abandoned road. If I can find it and it's hikeable, I may hike it out down to the park boundary. The elevation here is 2850. Actually, this information kiosk shows part of what I was talking about. This is the west side of the mountain, and there used to be an old road that came up here past a wastewater treatment plant, came up like this. Here's the wayside, then headed north, and then down the east side of the mountain like this. There's part of it right there. This is Ivy Creek, so I'm going to follow this for a ways, and it had to cross Ivy Creek right in through here somewhere and then head on down the east side of the mountain. So we'll see what we can find. Okay, well, right there's the trailhead for Patterson Ridge, going up that way. I've already done that hike. You can find that on my YouTube channel. Right up there's the wayside, and almost directly across from Patterson Ridge, we're going to head down this way and down the east side of the mountain this way. So let's see what we can find. Up there's the way I came, and I'm looking down here and I'm seeing the headwaters of Ivy Creek already. Four-tenths of a mile into my hike, I'm down to 2780, and that's where I came from, down that way, from that direction. Ivy Creek is right over here, and not sure exactly what that is. It's got electrical power going to it. It might be a pump house to pump water up to the Loft Mountain Wayside. And then the electrical power continues on down this way with the road. So let's go down here to the road until we get down to the end. Well, that's kind of interesting. I'm guessing that might have been a concrete foundation, a cradle for maybe a fuel tank. This thing looks like it's powered electrically right now, but it could have been in the old days. Could have been a gasoline or diesel powered pump. Here's another oddity along this road here. I'm still heading this way, but that's some sort of a brick structure with a pretty heavy metal cap on top of it with a padlock. So that might be a wellhead. The pump house is back there, so I don't know. This could be the wellhead, because there's a lot of wellheads here in the park that are capped off with metal lids like that and then locked. Just a guess, though. Half a mile into my hike, I'm down to 2750, and here's the second cinder block building. It looks a lot like some of the other wells, pump houses I've seen. It's got electric power feeding it from where I came from, so I'm guessing this is another well and pump to pump water up the hill to the wayside and maybe even all the way up to the campground. This looks like the end of the road here, so I may have to turn around and head back. Eight-tenths of a mile into my hike. I'm back up to 2860 elevation. That's where I came from. That's where the two pump houses are, down that way. I hiked back up to here. This road takes you, is an easy way to cross over Ivy Creek up near the headwaters, and it takes you past the Ivy Creek shelter, which I've done before, but I'll do it again today. And I'm going to head up this way and get on the Appalachian Trail on the other side of Ivy Creek, and then go down this way looking for this old road. So let's head up this way to the shelter. I'm not quite to the shelter yet, but there's your outhouses. That's old school pit style outhouses. Looks like a three-holer to me. Up this way's the shelter. .1 miles into my hike. The elevation is 2950. Here's the Ivy Creek shelter. It got converted into a PATC maintenance building years ago, so there's no overnight stays there. There's where I came from, and there's a stone cooking fireplace. And you'll have to use your imagination, but back in the day, imagine this back in the day without all these trees. And you'd have a pretty nice commanding view of the nearby mountains. Over there is the spring with lots of flow, and up this way is another cooking area right there. Stone cooking area. Some metal boxes that PATC uses to store some of their tools and stuff in. So anyway, I'm not going to spend any time here. I'm going to keep heading this way to the Appalachian Trail. Then we're going to head down this way and start looking for this road, if it's still visible. There's the flow coming out of the spring. And it runs off down into the headwaters of Ivy Creek down there. .2 miles into my hike. Elevation is 3,000 feet here. That's where I came from. The Ivy Creek shelter's down that way just a short distance. You come up here and this is the intersection with the Appalachian Trail. Now I'm part of the way up Loft Mountain right now. That's southbound on the AT up to the summit and beyond, up to the campground. But I'm going to head this way north and descending down some off the side of the Loft Mountain down to a set of coordinates that I have from an old map. So it's about 1/4 mile and I have to drop down some. So let's go down here and see if I can see any remnants of the old road down here. I'm kind of curious about that. .7 miles into my hike. I'm down to 2,800 feet elevation. Here's the Appalachian Trail looking to the north, and I'm at a set of coordinates that's near where the old road showed up on the map. I don't really see any positive signs, but when I look up that way, I notice I can see quite a ways through the trees. So I think I'm going to hike up there up to that ridge line and look over and down and see what I can see. And then this way, if you ignore that one big tree, you can kind of go a pretty good ways down that way. And that's heading towards the first part of the road I hiked with the two pump houses. So I don't know, and then I went further down, but once you get down into there, it's starting to get rocky again, and I don't know. I'm going to hike up this way and look around some. I mean, this doesn't really look like a road here, except that I can see through the trees for quite a ways. It could be that this road's been closed for so long that it's just filled back in. Maybe I'll see some other signs of a road when I get up here. That's where I came from. I don't know. I'm still exploring to see if I can find this old road, but that's where I came from, the Appalachian Trail. When I got up to here, though, it's kind of interesting. This part here does look like an old road. It's kind of dished out. So maybe this is it. When I go back to the AT, I'll follow this dished out section and see where it ends up. .1 miles into my hike. I'm down to 2720, and after wandering around this coming down the side of the mountain here looking for this old road, I finally found it. This is it right here. So I'm going to adjust. I'm going to put some waypoints on here to mark it. To figure out where it starts up there, I'm just going to follow it back up the mountain, and I have to go back up this way and over a ridge line and then down to get back down to the Appalachian Trail. So I'll trace it out on my way back. I I don't know if I'm going to continue on or not. It's not that bad, but it looks like I'm going to be dropping down quite a bit in elevation. Then I have to turn around and climb back out of the hollow down there. So I may, I'll go down just a little further, but then I'm probably just going to turn around and follow this back up so I know exactly where it came from. I decided to turn around because it would add almost another mile to my hike plus a bunch of elevation. So I turned around. I'll show you on the map talk where I turned around. Maybe you can see these dead trees laying across the old road right here. See how it's dished out under there? If you come down through here, one thing you'll notice is that there's an awful lot of trees either blown down or cut down, and they're all magically laying exactly the same direction, namely across this old road. See those up there? All of them are laying in same, and look, down this way, see how they're all magically. Now I realize if a tree up there falls over and comes this way, I mean, that's a natural fall, but I'm not so sure. Some of these may have been cut down just as part of closing off the road. .4 miles into my hike, I'm up to 2820, and I followed the old road trace back up here to the top of the hill, and this is the way I'm headed. Now, starting here, the trace of the road becomes very faint and indistinct, so I'm going to do my best to follow it, but it's not real obvious from here on back to the AT where it goes, but I'll do the best I can. .5 miles into my hike, elevation is 2780, and this part of the road right here by the Appalachian Trail is very, very faint and very indistinct. But this is the road right here. There's a dead log laying that over there, and you'll see that dead tree laying across there, and over here's another one at an angle, and then there's the AT heading to the north. So if you see that tree laying there with the big tree that's been cut down, you went a little too far there at the bend. So coming from the south, you come down the side of the mountain, you come around that bend, and you'll see this tree here coming down. It'll be on your left, and you'll see this on your right, and this is it right here. I'll try and get an accurate set of coordinates, and I'll put them on my map. Well, I'm climbing the Appalachian Trail, climbing Loft Mountain. Got to get back up to about 3,000 feet. Then I can cut over using the service road to the shelter. I took a little excursion down there over to towards Ivy Creek to see if I could see where the road used to cross. But that whole zone down there is real flat and swampy and overgrown, so I bailed out and just decided I'd start heading back to my car. The leaves are turning pretty nice now, so on my way down Skyline Drive, I'll stop at some of the overlooks Try and get a few still pictures. .9 miles into my hike, I'm back up to about 3,000 feet. And here's the turn off to head back down to the Ivy Creek shelter. So here's my way back to past the shelter and finally up to Skyline Drive, and then take a left and back on up to Loft Mountain Wayside where my car is. Up that way is the Ivy Creek shelter. Just past it. Here's the service road. And fairly steep mountain right here. Maybe you can see that. Down that way is Ivy Creek. And over this way is that first gravel road that I hiked down to those two pumping stations. They're down that way a little ways. But it's pretty much downhill from here on back to my car. This is a map of today's hike. The quadrangle name is McGaheysville, 1965, and I hiked a piece of an abandoned road starting at the top of the mountain down the east side of the mountain towards its destination at Mission Home, Virginia. This is Skyline Drive. This is a modern day map. This is Skyline Drive coming down, and I parked right here. This is at the Loft Mountain Wayside, which is about mile marker 80. Now if you look at the green, this is the west side of the mountain here. Here's the ridge line, and over this way is the east side of the mountain. So I looked on an older map, Elkton 1937. I'll show you that map in a minute. But from the west side of the mountain, this road came up through Eppard Hollow, and it came up like this right past where modern day Loft Mountain Wayside is, right behind it, up onto what's now Skyline Drive, and then it came down the east side like this and shot across Ivy Creek, and then down this ridge line, and then working its way down the mountain. Here's the park boundary, and on down the east side of the Blue Ridge until it finally ended at a little settlement called Mission Home, Virginia. This is the Elkton 1937 map. And okay, let me go back to the other map first. Let me just call your attention to this, because this is the same on both maps. This is the county line between Greene County and Albemarle County. So keep that in mind. So here's that same county line right here. And this is the top of the mountain here. Here is Eppert Hollow. The road comes up like this and then starts working its way down the east side of the mountain all the way down to, here's a little settlement called Mission Home. Now Mission Home, this is a little kind of interesting. Mission Home was an Episcopal church settlement, and it was started around 1903, and the purpose of it was to be a home base for a series of missions and schools that they built up in the Blue Ridge. Now, one of the documents I read said that they ended up building about 28 missions and 16 schools up in the Blue Ridge, up in what is now Shenandoah Park. And Mission Home was their home base because it had dirt roads going up high on the mountain where the missions were, and it also had a road to Charlottesville, Virginia. So anyway, in 1935, when they created the Shenandoah National Park, all the people that lived up there in the Blue Ridge got forced off the mountain. So once that happened, the missions were not needed anymore, and of course the roads the dirt roads ceased to be used. So this is one of those dirt roads that I was looking for. So that's a little background on it. So anyway, I parked here, get up on Skyline Drive, come north just a short ways, and then here is the road starting down the east side of the mountain. Now point E here is the first of two pumping stations that I showed you, and then point C is the second pumping station, water pumping station. And my theory is these two pumping stations pump water up here to the Loft Mountain Wayside, and also about another mile up this road up to the campground. So I came down to here, and then at first I thought maybe I could just shoot across over to here, but once you get down here and see how steep it is, I decided not to try that. So I backed back up to here, and this is the service road over to the Ivy Creek Shelter. You go past that, and then this is the Appalachian Trail here. So then I headed north on the AT until I got to a set of coordinates. Point A here is a set of coordinates, and started looking around for the old abandoned road. Now this area right from here up to the top of the ridge here is not very obvious where the road is, but I basically followed it up to here, and then I started going down this side of the ridge. Here's a ridge line right here. So this road followed along just the east side of the ridge. Now, when you look at my GPS track, you'll see that I wandered around a bunch. When I got down into this area here, I finally dialed up this point F and got out my compass and bushwhacked just straight to here. Once I got to here, then I did find the road. It just looks like a ditch these days. And I decided, originally I was going to continue to follow it down the side of the mountain all the way to the park boundary. But I spent so much time wandering around up here, I decided to stop here. So I stopped here and then turned around and then followed it back. I was able to follow it back pretty easily up to here, up to the top of the ridge line. And then from here back down to the Appalachian Trail. And then I went a little bit further because I think that the road used to come up and just shoot across right here between points A and E. But this area right in here is flat and swampy. And over the years, I think what's happened is that the road, whatever road was here, has just been washed away and or filled in. So when you get down here, it's kind of like a swamp zone, and with Ivy Creek, the headwaters running down through there. So then I backtracked back to here, back past the shelter again, and back up to my car. Now while I was here, I also did a little bit of exploration down this way. I'd like to go back sometime this winter and try to hike down the west side into Eppert Hollow. So that's a future hike that I'm planning to do. This was not a real long hike, 3.5 miles, and an ascent of 712 feet. So this was basically a hike of exploration, looking for this old road. I found it, and I've got some pretty good coordinates for these points here. So, and looking on Google Earth at the historical imagery, wintertime imagery, you can see traces of this road heading on down to Mission Home. And that was the hike for today.